Alright, we're going to read a manual. This is also in English, French, and Spanish, so we'll just read the English section real quick. It's about 60 pages long. Alright, Victor is a company cutting, heating, and welding guide set up and safe operation procedure for the oxy-fuel equipment. English, oxy-fuel equipment, Victor cutting, heating, welding guide, English, French, and Spanish. Set up safety operating procedures. Victor, we appreciate your business with congratulations for the new Victor product. We proudly have the consumer the driving provide with the best service and reliability. The industry of the product is by your extensive warranty worldwide. A service network to be located with the nearest distributor service agency. Please contact a representative with the address, phone number in your area with the listed with the back covered with the guide. Visit on the web at VictorEquipment.com. Operation has been designed to instruct you on the correct use of the operation. Victor product with the satisfaction will in the product safe operation is our ultimate concern. Therefore, please take the time to read each of the entire manual, especially safety precautions. This will help avoid potential hazards that may exist when working with the product. All right, you are in good. Alright, table of contents, introduction, how to use this manual, section 2, safety precautions, housing, keeping, protective apparel, fire prevention, cylinders, section 3, industrial gases, oxygen, silicone, natural gas, propane, propylene-based fuel gas, natural propane-based liquid hydrocarbon activities, oxy-fuel apparatus, oxy-fuel supply, regulators, torch handle, cutting attachment. Section 5, setting up equipment for the welding, cylinders, regulators, gas hoses, torch handle, welding nozzles, setting up the weld, lifting with the torch, adjusting the flame. Section 6, welding procedure, preparing the metals to be welded, preventing the metals from warping, forehand and backhand welding techniques, starting and finishing the welding, oxy-fuel, brazing and brazing welding. Section 7, setting up the equipment for cutting. Section 701, setting up the cutting application. Section 8, troubleshooting. Section 9, specifications. Section 10, glossary. Section 11, statement of warranty. Alright, set and safety operating procedure for the setting of Section 1, introduction. 101, how to use this manual. The guide contains information for the related with the safe with the efficient operation of the oxy-fuel welding, cutting, heating apparatus for every several potential hazards present without using oxy-fuel equipment. It is therefore necessary to properly safely operating procedure with understood prior to such apparatus. Read the booklet thoroughly and carefully before attempting to operate oxy-fuel welding, cutting, and heating apparatuses. Through our understanding of the proper safety operating procedure will help to minimize potential hazards involved with the efficiency, productivity of the work. Welding, cutting, heating operations should conform with the applicable federal, state, local, county, city regulations for installation, operation, ventilation, fire prevention, protection, and personnel. Detailed safety operation instructions can be located with the ANSI Standards Z49.1 Safety of the Welding and Cutting, available with American Welding Society, P.O. Box 351040, Miami, Florida 33135, AWS.org. Other publications contain safety operation instructions available from the following organization: American Welding Society, AWS.org, Occupational Safety Health Organization, OSHA, Gov, the Compressed Gas Association, CGA.net, National Fire Prevention Agencies, NFPA.org. Do not attempt to use the apparatus unless they train with the proper use under the contempt component. Remember, the safety of equipment and incorrectly operated may result in a mishap. System rules, notes, caution, the warning, emphasize important safety operating information for this book. They are as follows. Alright, note conveys installation, operation, maintenance information, which is important both but non-hazardous related. Caution indicates potential hazardous situation which is avoided by the result which is if not avoided may result in injury. Warning indicates potential hazardous situation which if not avoided could result in death or serious injury. Safety precautions. Be sure to read and understand the safety operating instruction before you use the apparatus. Retain these instructions readily available location for the future reference. The following preliminary safety checks as the base for the further specific safety information over throughout this book. Warning: the product contained with the chemicals including lead, otherwise products. The chemical is known for the state of the California cancer for the birth defect for the reproductive harm. Wash hands after handling. California Health Safety Code 25249.5 attempt sequence. Warning: do not attempt to use the apparatus for the train in its proper uses under the component competent supervision for safety practice. The safety operating procedure described in the guide every time for the use of the apparatus. Deviating from the procedure may result in fire, explosion, property damage, operating, and injury. If any time apparatus even does not perform in the usual manner, have the difficulty with the apparatus and the system of the stopping using it immediately, do not attempt the apparatus if the problem has been corrected. Warning: service repairs apparatus should be performed qualified repair technician. Only improper service of repair modification of the proper product can result with the damage of the product with a try injury of the operator. Note the term qualified repair technician refers to repair personal cable servicing the apparatus strict in accordance with the applicable victors for parts of service bulletin literatures. Alright, 201 housekeeping. The work area must have the fireproof floor. The workbench and table during the welding, cutting, heating operation must have fire-proof tops. Using heat-resistant shield with other approved material to protect nearby surfaces for sparks and hot metal. Move all combustible material away from the work area. 5. Venting, welding, cutting with the heating of the work area is adequate to prevent accumulation of explosives, toxic concentration with the gas when working with lead or lead-bearing materials, steel coated with the lead paints, cadmium coated materials, any object containing metal generated with the giving off toxic fumes. Always ensure that suitable respiratory production equipment is utilized. When welding, be sure to understand the material safety data sheet for alloy being used. Place the oxygen fuel cylinder close to the location of where you are working. Ensure the cylinders are a safe distance from the sparks hot metal individual chain. Otherwise, secure the cylinders to the wall, bench, the post, cylinder part, and to keep the cylinders upright, secure them from falling over. 202. Protective apparel. Protect yourself with a sparking flying slag, flame brilliance at all times. Gas fumes produce the infrared radiation that may have a harmful effect on the skin, especially on the eyes. Select appropriate goggles on mass tempered lenses, shade from 5 or darker to protect your eyes for the injury, provide visibility of the work. Always wear appropriate protective goggles, gloves, flames, resistant clothing to protect skin from clothing and the sparks and slag. Keep collar sleeves and pockets buttoned. Do not roll up sleeves or cuff pants. Remove all flammable, readily combustible material within your pockets, such as matches, cigarette lighters. Keep all clothing, protective apparel completely free of oil, or grease. Do not wear clothing that is easily ignited, such as polyester pants or shirts. 203. Fire preventing. Welding, cutting, and heating operation. Use the fire combustion with the basic tool of the process favor. Use the unfold with the properly controlled, however, with extremely destructive, perform correctly in the proper environment. Protecting fire prevention techniques when using oxy-fuel operations in progress. A few simple precautions can be prevent most of the fires. Help to minimize damage in the event of the fire does occur. Keep all apparatus clean and free with grease, oil, flammable substances. Inspect oil, fuel apparatus, oil, grease, damaged parts. Do not use the do not use oxy-fuel apparatus if oil, grease are present. If damage is evident, never use oil, grease, lubricant around the oxy-fuel or apparatus. And even trace the oil or grease can ignite and burn violently in the presence of oxygen. Keep flames and heat sparks away from the cylinders, regulators, and hoses. Flying sparks can travel the distance of 35 feet or more. Remove all combustible materials away from them while oxygen operations are being performed. Operators may not be becoming aware of the fire starting while the operating apparatus division seriously hampered with the welding goggles with darkened lens. Depending on the circumstances of the work location, may be dividable as a fire watcher to the operator to extinguish son of the fire alarm in the case of fire. Keep and improve with the fire extinguisher on the proper side of the type of the work and inspect with the regularity to ensure that it is proper working order. To know that how you use the fire extinguisher, use the heat-resistant shield with the other appropriated materials to practically nearby surface ceilings, equipment for the sparks for the hot metal. You only use the fuel equipment with the fuel gas designed for after the equipment has been properly set up with the silicone cylinder valve with approximately 3/4 of the turn, no more than 1.5 turns. Keep the cylinder wrench if one is required with the cylinder valve, so the cylinder may be turned off quickly as it becomes necessary. All gases except the acetylene one open fuel gas valve with completely sealed with the cylinder gas pack with the sealed packing. Never test the gas for gas leaks with a flame. Use an approved leak detector solution. Never perform welding, cutting, heating operation with a container with itself with a toxic combustible liquid vapor. Never perform welding, cutting, heating operation within an area with contained with a combustible flames, vapors, flammable liquids, explosive dust. Never perform welding, cutting, heating operation in closed container or vessel which may explode when heated. Avoid operating with equipment that is spring in rooms. The sprinkler system is unusual unless the sufficient ventilation keep the area cool when the work is complete and inspect the area possible fire smothering materials. 2.04 cylinders. All government insurances regulation relating to the storage of oxygen, acetylene, and liquid petroleum gas cylinders should be closely observed. Industrial gas cylinders are maybe the rigid specification inspected with each time that they are refilled with the supplier. They are safe and properly handled. For additional information, they handle with the gas cylinder. Contact the gas supplier. Refer to the Compressed Gas Association publication P1 Safe Handling of the Compressed Gas Containers. Keep all the cylinders or empty. All cylinders empty or full all the way. Radiators, furnace, or other surfaces with the heat. Avoid contact with electrical circuits. Keep away from the grease, away from the cylinders. Cylinders should be screened against the direct rays from the sun, protecting cylinder valves from bumps and falling objects. Inspect the cylinder valve with the damaged part for keeping the valves clean from the oil and with the grease with all form materials closed. The cylinder valve with not used to empty with the move of the cylinders always use the be sure for the cylinder valve that is tightly closed before removing the regulators. Always replace the cylinder valve cap if applicable. The cylinder is not in use. Never allow anyone to strike any with an arc or tap an electrode against the cylinder. Never try a cylinder with a mixed gas with the cylinder. Never to draw gas from the cylinder except through the properly attached regulators. Equipment designed for the purpose of if the damage of the regulator with the supplier with the qualified repair technician or the repairs. Do not tamper with all after cylinders numbers markings. Never use cylinders as support or rollers when transportation cylinder with a crane. Use an improved cylinder with a cradle only. Never use the magnet crane and to move cylinders. Never lift the cylinder by its protective cap. Now, if you are unable to make a gas-tight seal move between the cylinder valve with the regulator nipple. Check to see if the connection is tight. Check the regulator inlet connection for damage. If the cylinder valve is damaged, remove the cylinder from the surface. Notify the gas supplier. Never insert the washer with a lead or other material between the regulator cylinder valve. Never use oil grease connection. Never use the compressed gas cylinder without pressure reducing regulator attached to the cylinder valve. Never drag the cylinder or roll the bottom of the edge for the suitable cylinder cart. Never transport cylinders in passenger vehicles or other transportation cylinders with a suitable ventilated to service the vehicle. See CGA PS 17 CGA position statement of the safety of the safe transportation cylinder in passenger vehicles. Use only cylinders to keep keys to open the cylinder valves and never extend with the length of these. The keys under circumstances if they cannot be opened by the hand, do not use the hammer or the wrench to notify the supplier. Leave the cylinder key position when fuel gas cylinder with valves are open. Some cylinder valves must know notable excitate cylinder valves when requiring adjustment with the valve packing. Consult with the gas supplier with the proper method of adjusting packing. Do not use the cylinder if the packing is leaking. Warning cylinders are highly pressurized with the handle with the care. Some accidents and can result with improper handling. Must be issued with the compressed gas cylinders. Do not drop the cylinder, knock it over the exposed with the heat with the flames or sparks. Do not strike a cylinder in any manner. Alright, Section 3, Industrial Gases. Caution. Fuel gas may be toxic for the contact of the gas supply with the appropriate material safety data sheet for each of the gas. With the hazardous material regulation, the Department of Transportation regulates the transportation industrial gas with the cylinder used to transport and dispose of the fuel gases may also be controlled with the contact of the local state department for further information. 3.0 3.01 oxygen gas chemical elements is symbol of great interest because greater interest because it is essential element of the respirator process for the most living cells and combustion process for the most of the abundant of the element in the Earth's crust. Nearby 1/5 of the volume of the air of the oxygen. Oxygen can be separated with a fraction from liquefaction, dissolution. One of maybe the application for the oxygen melting, refining the manufacture for the steel, other metals. Oxygen is required to support the burning of the process, therefore, combined with the fuel gas to produce the desired operating fuel. The oxygen in itself is not flammable. The flame, however, the presence of the pure oxygen dramatically accelerates the burning process. Oxygen can easily turn the small sparks into the roaring flame explosion. Warning, never allow the oxygen to contact with the grease or other oil or other flammable substance. Although the oxygen itself will not burn, but the substance has become highly explosive and may ignite with a burn rapidly with the support of the pure oxygen. Oil, grease, combined with oxygen may ignite and even explode with the presence of excessive heat and flame. Oxygen is orderly supplied with a standard drum with a steel cylinder with a 244 feet cubed or 7 meters cubed. The cylinder is most common to use the smaller large side with available for oxygen normally pressurized with an excess of 2,000 psi. Terminal oxygen cylinders consist of retaining the inlet pressure for the gauge of the regulator. For example, the fuel cylinder pressure for the regulating includes a high volume with a feet cubed or meters cubed. Oxygen remaining, the maximum fill pressure should be always stamped on the cylinder. Due to the high pressure in which oxygen is contained, cylinders must always handle with great care the potential violent reaction with the oil, grease, or all other contaminants. In the presence of the oxygen cannot be overstressed with the serious injury of the death of the early result with the injury. Oxygen is used with the substitute with the compressed air. Oxygen should never referred to as air. Warning, never use oxygen pneumatic tools or preheating burner for the start of the internal combustion engine to blow out the pipeline with enough of the clothing of the working area to create the pressure of the ventilation. In short, under none of those circumstances, use oxygen as a substitute for compressed air or other gas. If the oxygen, only the proxy oxy fuel, cutting, heating, welding applications. Alright, oxygen valve setup and safe operation procedures. Oxygen valve outlets, regulator inlet connections. The CGA 540 up to 3,000 psi of gallons. CGA 570 up to 4,000 psi in gallons. CGA 701 up to 5,500 psi in gallons. 302, acetylene. Acetylene is completed with a carbon hydrogen or two carbon, two hydrogen. A versatile industrial fuel gas for the cutting and the heating, the welding, the bracing, for the soldering, flaming, hardening, metallizing, stress relieving application. They produce the well calcium carbide with the submerged in water for the petrochemical process. The acetylene gas produced for the compressed and the cylinders and fed into the piping of the system. The acetylene provides unstable compressed for the gas to stay above 15 psi gallons. Therefore, it cannot be stored in hollow cylinders under the high pressure within the way of the way oxygen, for example, is stored. Acetylene cylinders are filled with a porous material, calcium silicate, creating with an effect with a solid opposed to the hollow cylinder. The porous filling is then saturated with the liquid acetone. The acetylene is pumped into the cylinder, absorbed by the liquid acetone throughout the porous filling. Set with a stable condition filling with the acetylene cylinders. Delicate process requiring special equipment. The training of acetylene cylinders must therefore refill with the authorized gas distributor. Acetylene cylinders must never be transfilled. Our figure 2 shows the acetylene cylinder interior. The porous failure with the calcium silicate 8%, 10%, acetone 42%, acetylene gas 36%, reserve volume with a 70 degrees Fahrenheit 10 to 12%. Acetylene cylinders. Acetylene cylinders are filled with a fusible plug designed with the vent with the cylinder content with the vent with the unsafe condition of the rising of the cylinder that could be due to the number of the reason for such overheating. They are either incorrect operating techniques, faulty equipment, in conjunction with excessive temperature. In the event of the cylinder safety device for the malfunction, remove the cylinder with the surface of the plate for the cylinder in a well-ventilated area, preferably outdoors. Notify the supplier immediately. Common available acetylene cylinders capacities, cubic feet 10, 130 to 330, safety, shock sensitive, unstable over 15 psi's out of the cylinder. Explosive limit of the oxygen 3 to 93. Explosive limit in the air 2.5 to 80. Maximum allowable use of pressure 15 psi gauge. PSI in gallons, PSI gauge, Attendance of the backfire, considerable toxicity low. Maximum withdrawal rate, 1/7 of the cylinder contents per hour. Combustion properties, neutral flame, temperature for the Fahrenheit, 5,720 degrees. Burning velocity, oxygen for the second, 22.7 feet per second. Primary flame, BTU flames, foot cubed, 507. Secondary flame in the BTU foot cubed, 963. Total fuel with the BTU foot 1,470. Total heating value with the BTU pounds, 21,600. Auto ignition temperature of the Fahrenheit through 763 and 824. Valve outlet regulator inlet connection standard connection CGA 510. The alternate standard connection CGA 300. Small valve series 10 foot cubed cylinders CGA 200. Small valve series 40 foot cubed CGA 520. If more detailed specification required for the contact fuel supplier with a specific property for the natural and for properties of the fuel gas. 303 natural gas propane. Natural gas is available in the most area of the U.S. and Canada with the physical properties of according to geographical location. Methane, colorless, odorless gas. Principal component of the natural gas mixture containing about 75% methane, CH, carbon, 1 carbon, 4 hydrogen, ethanol, and 5% hydrocarbons such as propane and butane. The propane is non-reusable fuel, fossil fuel with a neutral gas is produced, either known by the popular terms liquid petroleum gas, similar to neutral gas, natural gas, methane. Propane is colorless, odorless, although the propane is non-toxic, odorless, or foul-smelling. With the precipitant it is added to make the gas leaks easy to detect. Liquid petroleum gas were discovered in 1912 with American scientist Dr. Walter Snelling, with the discovery that these gases could be changed into liquid stored under moderate pressure. The liquid petroleum gas industry got its start because before World War I, when a problem in the natural gas distribution process popped, the section of the pipeline on one natural gas that followed under the controlled colored stream. The colors led to lots of liquid building up the pipeline, sometimes to the point of blocking the entire pipeline. Soon the engineer figured out the solution. Facilities were built to cool the compressed natural gas to separate the gas that could be turned into liquids, including propane and butane. Alright, both natural gas and propane are used in industrial fuel gases in flame cutting, scarfing, heating of the flame, and hardening, stress relieving, the bracing, and soldering. Natural gas is transported into the pipeline by the most insulation with the natural gas, the fuel gas, natural gas, natural gas and methane. Authorized shipment is non-liquefied compressed gas cylinder of the DOT regulations. Propane is available on site with bulk storage and is obtained with 5 to 420 pound cylinders. Shock sensitive, stable for both propane and natural gas. The explosive limits of oxygen 5% to 59%, 2.4 to 57% propane. Explosive limits of air percentage 5% to 15% natural gas, 2.1 to 9.5% propane. Maximum allowable use of pressure varies. Cylinders, propane cylinders 120 psi gauge, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Tends to backfire slight for both and toxicity low for both. Combustion properties: neutral flame Fahrenheit 4600 Fahrenheit. Natural gas 4579 Fahrenheit. Propane burning velocity oxygen foot per second 15 foot 0.2. 12.2 for propane. Primary flame with a BTU foot per the cube 55 and 295 for propane. Secondary flame 995 natural gas 2268 propane. Totally the BTU foot cubed 1050 and 225.63. Total heating of the valve for the BTU pounds 24,800 and 21,600. Auto ignition temperature of the degrees Fahrenheit 999 for natural gas, 870 for propane. Natural gas by pipeline CGA 350, methane 5500 psi gauge maximum, CGA 695, propane CGA 510. More detailed specifications required. Contact your fuel gas supplier with the specific property for the fuel and gas. Alright, fuel 304 propellant-based fuel gas. Propellant is known as the IUPAC, the name of the propellant, and propane. Propanol is organic compound with a heavy chemical of C3, carbon 3, hydrogen 6. The second and simplest number of the alkaline class of the hydrocarbons of the ethanol or ethane may be simple as the room temperature pressure of the propane, propanol is the cast of the color is high flammable and it has order of the similar garlic. Propanol is found with a coal gas that can be synthesized with the cracking petroleum. The newer design of the cracking takes place using the active zeolite base for the catalyst and short contact of the vertical upward sloped pipe called the riser, preheated to feed the spray into the base of the riser feed with the feed nozzle, which contacts extremely hot fluidized catalyst of 1230 to 1400 degrees Fahrenheit, and the hot catalyst vapor to feed with the catalyzed with the cracking reaction, the breakdown of the molecular weight of the oil with the lighter component including liquid petroleum gas, gasoline, diesel. Catalyst hydrocarbons mixture flows upward through the riser for the few seconds, and then mixture with the suspected of the cyclones. Catalyst hydrocarbons are routed with the main fractionary for separation: fuel gas, liquid petroleum gas, light cycle oils, used for the diesel and jet fuel, heavy fuel oil. The gas and industrial fuel gauge of the flame cutting scarf for the heating of the flame, hardening with the stress relieving the bracing for the soldering. They may also be used with a certain application for the welding, cast iron, and aluminum. Propanol and propylene base fuel gas cylinders available. The bulk storage available in 30-pound cylinders or larger 60 to 70-pound cylinders and 100 to 110 pound cylinders. Shock sensitivity stable. Explosive limit of the oxygen 2.2 to 57%. The explosive limit of air 2 to 10%. Maximum allowable pressure 135 psi gauged at 70 degrees. Tendency for the backfire moderate. Toxicity low. Combustion property, natural fuel, temperature for degrees Fahrenheit, 525, 5240, and burning velocity, oxygen foot a second with 15 foot, primitive BTU foot square with the 403, the secondary flame of the BTU foot per cube, the 1969, total heat of BTU fit, cube, 2372. Total heating of the BTU pounds, 20,000. Auto ignition temperature of Fahrenheit, 896. Valve outlet regulator inlet connection, CGA 510, and more detailed specification required the contact the fuel gas supplier specific property of fuel gas. Alright, 305, fuel gas for the natural gas propane base with the plus liquid hydrocarbon additive. The fuel gas for the natural gas propane base for the enriched with the liquid hydrocarbon additive. The liquid hydrocarbon additive with the usually low boiling point petroleum, either fraction of the N-pentane and isopentane. The N-pentane is heating valve with approximately 4,249 BTUs cubed. Pentanite, the natural gas will show a greater percentage increasing heat valve of the BTU heat valve of the natural gas approximately 1,500 BTUs foot cubed. This is not meant with the imply with the fuel and gases listed above the pentanate and isopentanate with liquid hydrocarbon additives. Physical combustion property of the fuel gas vary according with the percent of the additive base for the natural gas propane. The general specification for the natural gas propane listed the proper preceding the page of the guide only contact your fuel gas supply with a specific property of the fuel gas. More detailed specifications as are required. Or Section 4, Oxy-Fuel apparatus. The Oxy-Fuel workstation normally include the following items, each designed to perform specific function. The oxygen fuel supply, regulators, hose, torch handle, cutting attachment tips, welding nozzles, heating nozzles, operating safe to oxygen. 401, oxygen fuel supply. The tube workstation, portable, the stationary portable station usually supplied with a cylinder mounted with the car. The stationary units are supplied with a piping manifold system. The stationary system restricts the upper length of the hose attached to the torch handle. Caution, always be aware that the gases in the station use only the type of the apparatus designed for either of those gases. 402, regulators. Oxygen fuel pressure for the regulators can be attached with the cylinder and piping outlets reduced for the high cylinder supply pressure for the suitable low working pressure for the fuel oxy-fuel application of these basic external feature of the regulator shown in Figure 3, with the Figure 3 show for the CGA inlet connection with the filter pressure adjusting screw, inlet gauge, delivery gauge, outlet connection, relief valve where provided. The Figure 3A regulator features. Starting on the left, you see the low pressure gauge delivery, then the high pressure gauge supply, pressure adjusting screw, the inlet filter inlet connection and outlet connection relief valve. On the right, you see the pressure gauge and the outlet connection. Right on the top right, you see the high pressure gauge supply, the low pressure gauge slide delivery. And under that is the pressure adjusting knob, and that's oxygen. The edge regulator features inlet filter, inlet connection, outlet connection, relief valve. Warning, always keep the regulator free of the oil, grease, or other flammable substances. Never use the oil, grease regulator cylinder manifold connection. Only use the regulator gas pressure for the which for the design. Never after the regulator use any other gas. Inlet connection. The regulators are attached with the cylinder with the piping outlet for the inlet connection. Inlet connections must have the clean filter of all the inlet connections connected with the specification standards set forth in the compressor gas association marked with the identified CGA number. CGA number to identify the cylinder valve gas surface for the which for the connections design. Example, the CGA 510 may be designated as standard fuel gas cylinder connections, such as silicane, propanol, base fuel gas propane with the CG 540 with the connection of just designed with the oxygen surface with the only with the fuel gas inlet light connection. Usually have left-handed threads. Those with the left-handed threads for the V-notch around the inlet, not then further designated with the connection fuel gas surface. All oxygens have the right-handed threads. Pressure adjusting. Regulator adjusting screw knob deliver the pressure of the gas with the hose that previously with the regulator function with the reduce the supply with the pressure for the suitable working pressure range. The adjusting screw with the turn clockwise. Regulator always gases to flow through the regulator hose with the torch with the thread with the adjusting screw with the mechanical force spring of the diaphragm control with the pressure regulator valve regulator adjusting screw with the turn clockwise. Tensile spring relief within the regulator normally does not allow gas to flow. The regulator adjusting screw is not intended to shut off the mechanism. Alright, pressure gauge. The inlet pressure gauge that indicates the cylinder with the supply pressure for the entering the regulator. The delivery pressure gauge that indicates the delivery pressure for the regulator through the hose. The all gauges are pressure precision instrument that handle with the care of the outlet connection. Gas hose that attached with the regular outlet connection. Most fuel with the gas with the left-handed thread of the outlet connection to mate with the left-hand hose connection with the snap of the V notch for the outlet connection. Further designated with the connection with the fuel gas for the oxygen regulator with the right-hand thread outlet connection to mate the right-hand hose connection. Relief valve, where provided an internal external valve with a designated to protect the low pressure side with a high pressure regulator for the damage due to the invert with a high pressure surge. Warning, do not tamper with the relief valve with the remove of the regulator. Relief valves that are not intended for the downstream equipment for high pressure. Hoses, gas hoses transport low pressure for the gas with a maximum of 200 psi gauge for the, from the regulator for the cutting of the welding towards proper care with the maintenance of the hose assist, operative maintenance for the safe of the efficiency for the working area. Hose construction. The industrial gas hoses used in the U.S. generally are color-coded with the gas surface identification for the oxygen hose that normally grow, the fuel hose the red, with the color subjective to the chain that contain countries in the other than the U.S. The holes are constructed with continuous labor of the rubber, the neoprene material over the braided inner section. The hose is marked with the indicator of the grade, but approved domestically fabricated with type VD, grade RM, and T hoses are flame retardant, and they have the oil resistant cover. The grade, but the R hose does not have the oil resistant cover. Grade T and RM hoses will burn, but will not support flame. If the heat source is removed, the grade T hose is recommended for all fuel gases. Grade R and RM hoses are used with acetylene only. Warning, grade R and RM hoses use the acetylene with a hose that have the rubber fillings lining with are degraded with the petroleum-based fuel gases. Grade T hoses are recommended for all fuel gases. They should be used with the petroleum-based fuel gases since the neoprene liner is compatible with the hoses with these gases. Hoses careful. Gas hoses are often exposed with a severe beef that provide efficient surface of proper care with the hose spliced with the hose length to restrict with the reduce the amount of gas flow for the whole. Molten slag spark with they come in contact with the hose for the burning and with the hose exterior of the failing metal during the cutting of the operation may crush the cutting of the gas. However, the operator should frequently inspect with the hose when necessary to replace them. Safety notes. Falling metal during the cutting operation might cross or cut into the gas hose and never allow the hose to be coated with oil, grease, or dirt. With such coating with conceal the damage area. Examine the hose with attaching with the gas torch handle with a regulator to cover the burns and cracks, worn areas, damaged fittings. Is found replaced with the hose completely replaced in gaps contained with multiple splices when the cracks serve the weather. Whereas notice, terms you should know. Backfire. The return of the flame in the torch producing the popping sound. The flame will either be extinguished or reignite at the tip. Sustained backfire. Returning the flame in the torch will continue burning within the torch. This condition can be accompanied by the popping sound followed by the continuous hissing, whistling sound. Flashback. The return of the flame through the torch into the hose or even with the regulator. It may also reach for the cylinder. This condition was possibly called the explosion in the system. 403. Torch handle with the essential with the gas tube with the control valve with one tube valve with the fuel supply, other tube with the control of the oxygen. Facilitating the torch handle is designed to mix the fuel for oxy-fuel processes. The apparatus attached with the handle mixer the oxygen fuel gas with the handle means for the control of the gas supply. Or the picture torch handle consists of the 6 elements with the figure 4 with the control valve with the internal reverse flow check valve with the body Y, internal flashbacks, arresters, and barrel located tubes located within the side of the barrel with the torch head. Victor torch handle model number that contains the letter FC with equipped with a built-in flashback arrestor check valve with the model number that C that only contains a built-in check valve. The early versions without an F or C, and the model number contained neither. For all C model torch handles in either earlier versions, it was recommended to add on a flashback arrestor be installed, and most add-on flash arrestors contain the built-in check valves. Alright, torch head, barrel, body at Y, control valves, and internal flashback arresters, internal reverse flow of the check valves. Body wide. The internal flashback arrest is the most victor of the torch handle equipped with the built with a flashback arrest. The flashback arrestor is designed to prevent the mix for the aspect of the ignition upstream of the flashback arresters. Caution: it is not recommended to use the accessory flashback arrestor for the victor of the FC torch handle with if the device is already built with an excessive flow restriction may occur with the general information flashback arrestors contained with the torches is enabled to prevent the flashback flame entering the hood of the gas supply system with a very fine filter like with a centered stainless steel frame barrier over the top of the flashback flame. For maximum service life of the flame back of the flashback arrestor, completely purge all the lines hoses before connecting the torch. Remove the loose from the material contained within the hood. The regulator could restrict the flow of the flashback arrestor. Flow restriction of the torch overheating the result of the dirty oil of the liquid petroleum gas residuals allowed to flow into the flashback arrestor, causing clogging to make sure that the draw liquid will allow it to store the cylinder upright position. Our control valves, we use the internal reverse flow check valve. The body wide has two control valves attached to the valve body, but they must be distinguished between the two valves. The one valve with the left-handed threads to shove the gas, the fuel gas over the other valve with the right-handed threads for the oxygen hose. The control valves never require lubrication. Occasionally, packing nuts may require a slight adjustment. Make the most victor's hand with the equipment the painting with the built in the reverse flow check valves to reduce possibility of mixing gas and the hose regulators. Caution: a check valve with a mechanical device that can leak with the dirt, and if the check with the valve should be tested every 6 months. Most of the hoses are frequently disconnected. Careless use of the dirt and abuse can shorten the surface of life within the check with the valve. They require the most frequent testing the following with manufacturer instructions testing. The check valves, no reverse flow check valves are not same with flashback erectors. Check valves are designed to help prevent reverse flow of the gas upstream of the torch. Flashback arrestors are designed to prevent mixed gas from igniting up the stream of the flashback arrestor. The barrel inner oxygen tube is designed to keep the oxygen with the fuel gas separated with the tube, and the tube designed to allow for the oxygen to supply with the inner tube with the head with the fuel supply tray with the interior barrel cavity. Torch head. The torch head is threaded with the barrel, creating of the metal with the meat cell with no zero O-ring with the oxygen supply with the inner tube with the director with the center hole of the head, while the fuel supply gas is the drilled orifice within around with the centered oxygen port. Tap the surface and include the head mate with the O-rings. When the cutting of the weld, the attachment is connected. This creates a gas-tight seal with the leg, and never lubricate these surfaces. If the damaged external threads with the internal surface of the head may be reconditioned, qualified by the repair technician. 404 cutting attachment. The cutting attachment function convenient convention with an economical approach for the cutting operation when the frequency application does not resort for the destination circularly cutting. With connecting the torch hand with the cutting attachment function for the cutting of the torch provided the property with a wide range cutting and capability. The cutting attachment consists of 7 basic elements. Figure 5 with the figure show with the cone end with the coupling nut with the pre-oxygen control valve with the mixing chamber, the cutting oxygen lever, tube cutting attachment head, and tip nut. This show the tip nut cutting attachment head, mixing chamber, the cutting oxygen lever, the pre-hole oxygen control valve, coupling and cone end. Figure 5 with the cutting attachment features. Cone end and coupling nut with the cone end and coupling nut that are designed to permit the attachment of the torch handle. The tapered cone is machined to make the internal taper of the torch handle to head, and O-rings of the cone allow the condition of separating with the oxygen fuel gas. The O-rings also provide a hand-tight seal for the connection. Warning, there must be also 2 O-rings on the cone end, but the absence of the damage of these O-rings will allow the pre-mixing leak of the oxygen fuel gas. This can lead to sustained backfire with the forward torch handle with the cutting attachment. The certain orifices of the cone with the center of the port with the torch handle, but also brass with the oxygen supply with the orifice around the port allow the fuel gas to feed up with the mixing chamber with the lower tube with the cutting attachment. Pre-oxygen cutting control valve with the cutting attachment connected with the torch hand with the pre-oxygen control valve with the cutting attachment control with the preheating oxygen supply from the regulator. The function of the man with the oxygen valve with the torch handle must be optimal. Politely, the preheating oxygen supply with the increased degree of the opening and closing with the closing of attachment control valve. The fuel supply is controlled by the fuel valve of the torch handle. Mixing chamber tube. The fuel oxygen mix of the produce the desired preheating flame with the accomplishment of the necessary of the mixing with the gas, the oxygen, fuel, and air fed with the mixing of the chamber located with the flower portion over the cutting attachment mixing chamber tube. The oxygen is directed to the mixer through the inner oxygen tube. The fuel gas is drawn into the exterior cavity with the attachment of the lower tube and around with the mixer. The mixed gas will flow through the preheating orifice of the cutting attachment head of the into the preheating orifice of the cutting tip. Cutting oxygen lever tube. The cutting oxygen lever is located above the cutting attachment with the oxygen control valve. The torch hand is open. Depressing the lever to cutting the oxygen flow through the upper tube of the cutting attachment center port for the cutting attachment head. The upper oxygen is designed to allow the maximum supply of the oxygen to cutting operation to provide the structural strength over the utilizing the high strength on the tubing. Cutting attachment head with the cutting attachment is designed to allow the cutting of the oxygen mix of the preheat with the gas to stay separated during the cutting operation. The exterior of the torch head with the thread of the interior of the head, the tapered internal taper of the head steps allowing with the preheating of the gas to feed with the cutting of through the exterior of the opposite with the cutting oxygen can travel the uninterpreted through the center port with the tip of the heat of the base mouth figure 6 with the exterior threads of the gas on the head allow the tip of the nut to compress the cutting of the tip of the tapered head that creates a firm gas tight metal to metal seal. C. Or your cutting tip. The cutting tips are available with a wide variety of the configurations. Have the cutting tips to keep the preheat, the gas mixture, or cutting oxygen separated with the provided flame characteristics needed for the particular cutting application. For the size tips, the size accordingly the thickness of the metal they can cut. For instance, the number of the 000 tip is designed for the cutting of metals 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch in thickness. As the number of the 000 tip will cut 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch thickness. For the further information, the tip size section, refer to the chart in section 9. Always always make sure that you're sure that the equipment is rated to the side of the tip that has select the tip within too much capacity. Equipment can start with and choke with the tip and then cause the overheating with the head of the backfire may result in the only genuine Victor cut scale with the firepower tip with welding nozzle. Multiple flame nozzles may ensure leak-free with connection with balanced equipment. Alright, this shows the figure in the 6 of the cutting tips, the preheating gas orifice, oxygen orifice, tapered seating surfaces of the tapered seating surfaces, tapered seating surface of the taper end of the tip of this machine that's fitting with the cutting attachment head, tip nut secure with the tip of the head, the tapered surface of the metal, the inspect with both the heated and tipper tape with the frequently the sign of the damage of wear. Warning: the damaged seating surface of the or either tip of the head, but it can be created with a hazard condition resulting in the backfire, sustained backfire, the damage of the cutting attachment, seek for the surface of the tip that act beyond because the damage, not even the tip of the scar, the damaged tip of the head, but requires repair with a torch for the qualified repair technician. Preheating orifice, oxygen orifice. The cutting tip is subjected to much abuse for the cutting operation. Slag can splatter and stick with the cutting the tip of the clogging with the obstruction of the passage through the gas must flow. Move the splatter from the tip orifice with the appropriate tip cleaners. Repeated cleaning with an effect with the flame configuration running with the tip unusable for the precision with the work. Welding nozzles usually assembled consisting of the welding elbow, the gas mixture for the coupling with a wide range at the tip of the configuration with the elbow attachment with the torch hand with the type of the typical tip nozzle application including the window welding bronze and soldering heating of the hard facing. Or welding elbow. The welding elbow tellurium copper tube that has been swagged as a specific orifice one for the one end. The cutting tip of the welding tips are calibrated for the welding various thickness for the metal with the very information for the nozzle size for the selection. Please refer to the chart located in section 9. The oxygen fuel welding process can be splattered with the clogged tip for orifice to remove the splatter from the orifice with around the tip with a round file tip cleaner. Note: repeated cleaning may alter the orifice size and require adjustment for the gas supply. Multiple view flame heating nozzle, the rosebud. The multiple flame heating of the nozzle, the basically large welding nozzle, the coupling nut, the all mixture, the assembly similar design, the welding nozzle, the multiple flame head, the machine, the numerous flame with the provided the rotational head, heating capacity for the heating of the applications, heating nozzle, the rosebud mixture of the welding elbow, and the coupling nut. Well, the 7-figure 7 shows welding nozzles. Gas mixture, the welding heating nozzle, the cone end with the similar of the cutting attachment cone end. The difference of the welding heating nozzle of the cone with the design to mix the oxygen fuel with the gas is where the cone end with the cutting of the attachment is not when the oxygen meets the fuel gas. The homogeneous mixture effects occurs. The complete with the mixing with the gas the result of the welding balance fuel flame composition like cutting the attachment of the cone end with the welding heating of the nozzle of the two rings or rings to maintain separation of the gas at the point with the weld, the mixing with the curve with the right hand with the right anti-connection of the welding nozzle with the torch handle. Warning: there must always be O-ring for the cone end, but after the damage for either of the O-rings, also pre-mixing leak of the oxygen fuel gas that cannot leave the backfire, sustain backfire within the torch handle. or a coupling nut. The welding heating nut with a cup nut with a coupling nut, similar design with a coupling nut with a cutting attachment at the back, locking the nut with the back, coupling nut with the groove within the forward position of the welding nut with the nozzle mixture aligned with the particular cone with the O-ring. See Figure 7. Examine the O-rings, the twisting, pushing, coupling, and nut away from the cone end. Caution: only the genuine Victor cut skilled power torch handles, welding nozzles, multiple flame nozzles are ensure leak-free connection and balanced equipment. Or Section 5, setting up the equipment for welding. I'm going to cut the tape.